In this video, Time to Sleep, I am going to tell you a lot of neat things that are related to sleep timing. How much sleep time do you need? What is your ideal sleep timing? And do the hours before midnight actually count double? The basic thing to know is that we are all sleeping and waking on alternative ways. So the sleep-wake cycle, you can actually look at it as a wheel. And this cycling thing, you know, being awake and then falling asleep again, this wheel is actually driven by three pilots. And I'm going to explain to you how these three pilots actually work. The first two of them, we call them the internal or biological pilots. And I'm going to tell you which ones they are. The first one is the clock. Draw these two lines together. There is these two nuclei in your brain, which we call the central clock. And what does the central clock do for you? Well, for example, alternatively make you able to be awake and then make you able to go to sleep. So this clock is telling you to be awake during the day and making you sleep during the night. And it's just doing this on a cycling way. A second very important biological pilot of your sleep-wake cycle is what we call the sleep need. Think of the longer you are awake, the more sleep you will be needing to be able to function again. So it runs up exponentially during the day. Okay, so by the end of the day, you feel sleepy, and that's a sign that you are having a high sleep need. Now, these two internal pilots, you cannot just let them run all by themselves. That is normal because we are living persons. We are constantly interacting with a lot of life factors, and these are what we call the external pilots. It's the light, how much light you have, how much work or maybe just how much rest you have, what you eat, how much you eat, how much you exercise, how much stress you have. You know, this is also telling you the very interwoven thing about all these pillars of Renewmyday. So you can say that we have an internal time. This is the one that's dictated by your internal pilots, like your central clock. And we have the external time, and these are constantly interacting one with another. And the more you balance the whole thing, the more balanced you will be, and of course, the better sleep you will have. So in order to have restorative sleep, we need three pillars, actually. And let's just explain these to you, these three pillars. First one is the how much time do you need to sleep quantity. And do you actually have to sleep always 8 hours? Does it have to be 8 hours? Well, the good news is no. Okay. A mean sleep need for an adult person is like 7 to 9 hours, meaning that you might be better off with 7 instead of with 8. But it also means that it might be normal for you that you need 9. Okay, and sometimes it's just 6, and then it's less is more. Please do take care of your quality sleep if you're only sleeping 6. Another very important pillar, and this is one of my favorites, is the timing of your sleep. This is about the story of what we call the late birds or the night owls, and the larks, the early birds. You can just talk about early types and intermediate types and late types. Okay, this is reflecting partly your biorhythm, which is genetically determined. And this is reflecting in your daily life in what we call the chronotype. What's the chronotype? It's your individual propensity, wishes on how ideally you function during the day and what your ideal sleep time is. And to illustrate this, let me talk about this one, the hours before midnight count double. Is this true? Let me explain. This is, again, the internal pilots. Now, an early bird will be programmed by this biorhythm and the biological clock, your central clock, telling you when to go to bed and when to be awake. And so an early bird will be programmed to go to bed at 10. At 10 o'clock, you are switching from the waking state to the sleeping state, and ideally you might wake up at 6 in the morning. That's an early bird. Now this one, of course, will sleep about 2 hours before midnight. And in the beginning of the night, you have a lot of deep sleep. And that's where this saying comes from, and actually it comes from. This might apply to the early bird. An early bird will have important part of the sleep before midnight. But let's take the late bird. Same curves, same pilots, only the programming is different. A late bird will fall asleep, biologically be ready to go to sleep at 12 or maybe even at 1 or even at 2 in the night, and will be programmed to wake up like 7 to 8 hours later. So if you're a late bird, do not try to go to bed at 10, you will just not fall asleep. And about 30% of people who have like insomnia and have sleeping, so they say do not fall asleep in the evening, do not have a sleeping problem. They have a timing problem. They go to bed too early. So it's very important to recognize somehow your own biorhythm, okay? And how can you do that? Think of yourself being completely free. You don't have kids, you don't have social, you don't have professional obligations. At what time would you allow yourself spontaneously to go to bed? And at what time would you allow yourself to wake up in the morning? Also think of, in a working situation, if you have a very, very difficult meeting to run, would you do that rather in the early morning, or would you be at your best in 4 in the afternoon? All those things are telling you something if you're rather an early or a late type, okay? So, and what you can gain with this is the whole thing about biorhythms, because actually, okay, you have a central clock, remember, on the crossing of those two lines, which is influenced by all these external pilots. And then it sends signals to our body, because every cell in your body has a clock. We are made out of clocks. We have the central clocks and we have the peripheral clocks. And like digestion. What you eat will influence these peripheral clocks. And then what also will be influenced is, for example, your microbiome. This is also something that's influenced. So the more all these rhythms are balanced, the better off you will be. And this is your biorhythm. This is partly genetically determined. And then again, the last one, quality sleep. The idea here is the golden rule is healthy sleeping starts during your day. Okay, healthy sleeping is a lifestyle. And this is not the scope of this film, but you have a lot of tips in my book, for example. I would actually just a few parts of quality sleep, just to take away some myths again. People say, if I wake up during the night, it's definitely not good, I don't sleep well. Or people say, I need a lot of deep sleep to be able to have a good recuperative quality sleep. Well, here are some answers on those. First of all, we all wake up. Waking up is normal. 20 to 25 minutes being awake during the night is normal. It might be that you are aware of it, you might be not aware of it, but 20 to 25 minutes is normal. Everybody wakes up. 15% of deep sleep is enough. You don't need more. And the REM sleep, the other part of sleep, you know, very important on the end of the night, then again, 15 to 20% is enough. So that means that everybody can count most of our night is lighter sleep, and that's normal, okay? Every sleep stage is important. So, should you use sleep trackers to know something about your quality sleep, for example? My answer to that is basically no. Sleep trackers usually don't give an accurate idea of what your sleep time actually is, and definitely not of your sleep quality. They usually provoke some anxiety, and that's exactly what you don't need to sleep well. So I would summarize this video with wise birds follow their clock.